DAPTIME Sports. Game Time. Full episodes can be found at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on our website at www.itsdaptime.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at DAPTIME21, Twitter at DAP_time, Facebook at DAPTIME, and of course, YouTube at DAPTIME TV. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for your continued support. We're proud to partner with Harrell Eyewear to bring you this episode, makers of stylish and innovative luxury prescription and non-prescription glasses for all occasions. For more information, visit the partner link on our website or go directly to www.harrelleyewear.com. Harrell Eyewear. Never lose your identity. It's time.
What up? What up? What's happening? Welcome back for another episode of Game Time. This is Big Dame and I's conversation about sports and sports-related topics. If you're used to following us up on DAPTIME, we left the sports off there. Over here is where we get all about that sports. On the groove, you've got in-house maestro dropping it on the one, Pete Nice, the incomparable one. The three of us are delighted to welcome you to a conversation today where we're going to talk about the playoffs, NBA style. We're going to talk about some WNBA action, and we're going to recap some of the recent events in boxing. So it's now time. Lace them up, get in the center of the ring. Put your dukes up. Ding, ding. What's happening? Big Dang.
What's up, bro? How was everything, man?
You know, everything is groovy. Everything is groovy.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Sticking and moving as usual.
Yeah, man. You know, spring has done its thing. It is now getting closer to summer, so we're starting to see some of that summer weather out this way, heating up a bit. Clear blue skies. Today, California officially opened up. Supposedly. I don't even know what that really means, but supposedly we're open.
Yeah. It just basically means it's summertime and we got to make some of this money back. So right. That's pretty much what I've found that it means here in VA.
You know, probably the same thing here. I don't know how that's going to translate to sporting events, but we will see. Speaking of which, man, I definitely wanted to shout out early in today's episode and recognize the accomplishment of Clarissa Shields. She had her first MMA event and won that. Congrats to her. Applause. Impressive, man, because she is the most decorated female fighter from the boxing ranks. I think the first to go from that side to the MMA side. So I know we've got to deal with some other boxing notes, but I wanted to definitely dedicate this show to her accomplishment and celebrate that and get your thoughts. What do you think about Clarissa Shields making that move?
I think it was dope, man. I'll be honest with you. I watched the whole fight. I followed Clarissa Shields. I followed her through the Olympic runs, both Olympic runs, and her professional career as well. I like the fact that she's very decorated, but I don't think there's much more for her to do in boxing.
Right.
I mean, she's pretty much tackled every obstacle she could find there. And I like the fact that she's pushing herself, you know, to a new, you know, challenging herself with something new. And I think that's what this was. So I watched the fight. As expected, her stand-up game, I don't think anybody wants to stand there and try to box with her.
Right.
But as we all know, it's called mixed martial arts for a reason. So my concern was how is she going to handle, you know, takedown defense? How is she going to handle somebody trying to wrestle her, or trying to submit her? Mm-hmm. She did a good job. And I think the upside is really, really big. Really, really big, man. So I'm anxious to see where she goes with it, man. I think she's got a bright future if she wants it.
You know, something that crossed my mind, Big Dame, that not necessarily related to her, because I think fight-wise, I agree. If you're dealing with standing up, it's not going to be easy for anybody to really deal with her. Mm-hmm. Virtually impossible. I've seen a lot of the female MMA fighters. I've seen a lot of male fighters. When you look at the stand-up game, their boxing is serviceable. If you really go boxing, just by boxing skill. Mm-hmm. So with what she's done on that side of it, I think she should be able to do well. It is a takedown piece. So that part I get. What really struck me is for her to be as decorated a boxer as she is. Do you know her net worth listed net worth is only $4 million.
That doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me either, but I thought, think about a male fighter with her accomplishments. That's at least double digits. I mean, you're at least talking 10, 15, 20 million, probably.
Yeah, I agree. That number rises incredibly if she's a man.
Right. She has IBF, WBA, WBC, WBO. She's got all of those belts and 2 gold medals. What is difficult to fathom is that she would not have more endorsements, more opportunities to shine. And I'm sure some of that is just the gate on the female fighters isn't the same. But still, like, why can't we put some of these women on the undercard for Top Rank? Why can't we put some women fights on the undercard for Premier Boxing? That kind of stuff. Like, it's hard to really understand.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's going to take, I think we're entering an interesting stage in life, period, not just in the fight game. Mm-hmm. But I think we're entering a period where people are being a little more creative about how we do things. I mean, we saw shameless segue, I guess. We've seen our buddy Mr. Mayweather, self-proclaimed TBE,
the money team,
50-0,
yes.
The money team. He took his reputation into the ring against a YouTube fighter, Logan Paul. We saw his brother is slated to fight Tyron Woodley, I think in August. We saw the other when Mayweather fought the other UFC guy,
Conor McGregor,
fought a couple years. Conor McGregor. So I mean, we've seen it before, but I think we see with Triller coming around, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, we're getting more of these exhibitions. I think this is kind of becoming a new lane. So I think maybe there's going to be a space for some female fighters to be on some different cards to hopefully generate more money for them.
I would hope so, and that's really kind of my nudge there. I would hope to see that she can get some of those kinds of avenues to showcase her skill, and to make more money, because I think fighting is fighting. She's been punched in the face. She's taken the body shot. She's paid the price, and I think she should be able to get some of the gains from that. Speaking of which, I mean, since you segued there, I have to admit, I watched the Floyd fight. First of all, big up to Ocho Cinco. For the athletes that were trying to make that jump, he redeemed Nate. Because he showed really well. I was impressed with everything about his stand up. He was evasive, good skill for somebody who prepared for that fight. And even though he got knocked down, I mean, it was kind of a weak. I mean, it was kind of, what was comical to me was the dude that he fought. Talk about now. People ask you about who Brian whatever is now. I'm like, I still don't know your name. But
right.
Not dissing him as a fighter, but I'm like, I don't think you propelled yourself to top 5 in contender right now. But but that said, man, I was entertained. I don't think I still wouldn't pay for that fight, but I was more entertained than I expected. And I think Floyd is carving out a different lane. I mean, something that people might consider as an evening of boxing alternative, right? It's putting the pressure on the rest of the field, on Premier and on Top Rank, to put the better fights that we want to see out there more. And if you're in between, no reason why you can't slate in some of this stuff to watch. Right. So big up to Floyd for coming up with that. Overall, though, what did you think? What were your thoughts of the event, the evening, and of this what appears to be a new option?
I mean, it's not. I mean, I think it was what Floyd wanted it to be. I mean, the fight was going to go as long and be as tough as Floyd allowed it to be. I mean, first of all, let's say that he is a highly decorated boxer for good reason. He earned that. So to think that anybody, and this is nothing against Logan Paul, because I think he can fight. You know what I mean? I mean, from what I mean, for as long as he's been doing it, he takes it serious. He's in good condition and can get out there. But there's a difference when this is your livelihood. This is what you do every day. This is what you've done since you were 6 years old or whatever. So there's a difference, man. And you saw it. So, even though he outweighed Floyd by probably 40, 50 pounds on fight night, he couldn't do anything with him. He couldn't do anything with him. And it was clear. It was evident. And whenever Floyd wanted to touch him, he could touch him and then he could move out. Yeah, he did whatever he wanted to do. Yeah. So I think for that reason, for me, it's like, really? Pay-per-view? This is not, I wouldn't pay for that.
But I could see people getting geared up because you want to see how far do you go down from Floyd before you see a win? And how long do you go before you start really scoring that? Because what I understand is there's no points per se, but a knockdown gets a score and a knockout. So, the knockout would be obvious, but, that a knockdown would actually count as the score. So it's like, hey, you're really going for the drama. And how far down from Floyd do you go before you see one of these, a Logan Paul or a Jake Paul, take a guy down?
Floyd almost reminds me of the Patriots, the New England Patriots, when Tom Brady was there, and polarizing, right? Some people, you either like the Patriots or you can't stand the Patriots, right? I think that's how Floyd is. And one thing I'll give Floyd, from a marketing standpoint, he understands some people hate me, some people love me. He's about the money, so it doesn't matter to him.
Right.
But how can I capitalize on this to get more money? Mm-hmm. So when he puts on a show like this, you've got a big, large percentage of the population who are fans of his, who, man, he's back in the ring. It's like if Ali was coming back, giving you little tastes of his game, in the late 70s, early 80s, before he, if he had came back and just started doing exhibitions, and which he did do an exhibition, by the way, like something in Japan, didn't he? Where he did. Some ordeal, but yeah, I mean, anybody, Joe Frey, any of these guys, and you could come back and see your favorite guy, people probably would do it. So he realizes that he's like, hey man, with social media and everything I have at my disposal, let's put on a show. Those people are going to come because they love me. They want to see. They want to get a chance to see me again. There's another set of the population. They're going to come because they want to see me lose. Yeah. So I want their money too. Right. Their money's green as well. So I mean, it's a genius plan. I mean, he understands what's going on,
right?
And that's why it's working for him, I think. So, And then on top of that, to your point, some of the other promoters, you're not giving us the fights that we really want to see.
Well, I think that's where the pressure comes in, right? I think because hey, if you got a guy that is on the come up, and he has an option to go make 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 doing a Floyd event, or he can wait 9 months for you to come up with a fight for him. He may opt for that, and there's no because it's a real fight. He can still get cut, he can still get injured, so or he could lose, and now you have trouble getting him. I mean, so I think it's an interesting element that we should keep an eye on. I want to keep moving things along down this ramp and kind of tease something that you and I have talked about doing, and I think it's a preview for listeners. Big Dame and I are about to do our ranking. We're going to do our top 10 all-time boxing ranking. And you can look for that to come out real soon. We're putting our numbers together, how we're going to do that. So our criteria is going to be there. We think this list will stand up against anybody who's done a list. But in the effort to do this, part of what we've been doing is research. Big Dame has talked about this in the past. You've got so many different mediums and avenues where people are ranking them. And Big Dame, I looked at this resource on the Delight. I found a great article by this young woman, Claire Gillespie. I think she's out of Scotland, and she put this together. She ranked the top 50. She had Floyd as her number one, top 50 now, all time. She had Floyd number one. And it seemed like a lot of what she was relying on was the points over rounds and some stuff like that. What it led me to is a question that I don't know. It could be polarizing for some, as the person is, but where would you rank Floyd all time?
So I'm gonna probably save that for when we actually do our rankings.
Oh, good teaser.
But I'll say this. So we've recently watched The Kings.
We did.
Which is a documentary on Showtime about the kings of the welterweight division of the kings of a time period in boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, and Roberto Duran. So Hagler has long been probably my favorite boxer. Probably just not listing, not ranking, just my personal favorite. After looking at that documentary and really reliving the fights, the era, the mindset, what each of them brought to the game individually, I have a hard time personally. I'm not saying Floyd doesn't deserve to be number one on somebody's list, but for me, I would have a hard time putting him ahead of any of those four. Just
so at a minimum, he's fifth at a minimum.
Yeah, and he's going to be lower than that. He's going to be lower than that because there's a couple other guys. I mean, once you really get to digging into, the Rocky Marcianos, the Sugar Ray Robinsons, Muhammad Ali, Frazier, Foreman. I mean, and I'm not saying, but once you really get to looking at all of that, because here's the thing, the young lady that you were just mentioning that made the list, Claire Gillespie, it was all about, I like what she did. It was numbers based. So you can't really argue with the numbers, but with boxing, there's intangibles at play that I feel like you have to look at. You know what I mean? If you Muhammad Ali fighting Larry Holmes at the end of his career, the points he lost, does that go against him?
Right.
Was he really Muhammad Ali at that point? Come on. Right. So, I mean, I think you have to look at Mike Tyson when he was fighting near the end of his career. That wasn't the same guy. So are you ranking all of that? But in fairness, for somebody like Floyd who went 50-0, I mean, was it gamesmanship? Whatever it was, he figured out how to win all the way through. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting point, and I love that we're going to do, just again, we're teasing you guys. And if you aren't doing so already, just a quick note: if you're catching us on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you can catch everything right when it's fresh off the plate. But Big Dame, when we do this, I think talking about guys who have two parts of their career is going to be really intriguing. You look at young Cassius Clay, and then you look at Muhammad Ali. And I think a lot of times people only look at Muhammad Ali. They don't look at the Cassius Clay. Well, look at Floyd. You've got Pretty Boy Floyd, who was one fighter. And then post a broken hand, you got Floyd Money Mayweather. And so there's a dynamic there, right? You've got Sugar Ray Leonard up to Tommy Hearns. Then you've got the detached retina Sugar Ray Leonard, right? You've got all these different elements of fighters in the two parts of their career. So I just want to tease it out there. By the way, Big Dame, this is a great segue for us. If you follow us on our DAPTIME Life series, you know that we do these little segments, Book and Binge. Big Dame and I both just finished completing the binge of the King series, which is on Showtime. If you don't have Showtime, you can probably get a 7-day free trial through Amazon, so you might want to check it. It's a 4-part segment. It is a phenomenal series on an era. So even though the spotlight is Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, and the Hands of Stone himself, Roberto Duran, great information and insight on these fighters, but their impact socially and their impact on the fight game. And you get to see all this interesting data as these events are happening in the world. And it gives you perspective on their careers. And I don't think even living parts of that I had. So encourage you that for the Book and Binge, make some time to go binge those 4 episodes. Each one I think is a little bit more than an hour. Well worth it. And more than likely you will watch it a second time. So with that, it's also time to get to the tip-off, Big Dame. But before we do, we want to recognize one of our other partners of the show, How We Feeling. This is a great company that's coming up with a new way to engage online authentically. How We Feeling gives you an opportunity to create a journey about anything. here we talk about sports. So maybe what your journey is about fitness or fine-tuning some aspect of your body. Visit their website today, www.howwefeelin.com, to learn more. Big Dame in the tip-off. It's a tip-off. Might as well talk NBA playoffs.
Oh, why not?
We're in the thick of it, man. So the first question I've got for you is, have you been surprised by anything in particular this playoff season? And if so, what is that thing?
Not the only thing that surprised me is I think the Phoenix Suns may be for real.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not knocking them. I didn't know. I'm on the East Coast. I don't watch a lot of the late games. So, when I do, it's usually the Lakers they have on.
Right, right. We know. I had to buy that jersey last year.
And yeah, man, I appreciate it. It displays, man. It displays well. But really, in watching them against LA, that didn't surprise me. The Lakers, that didn't surprise me. That implosion did not surprise me by the end of the year.
Oh, you mean street clothes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Charles said it. I didn't. But
right. Best nickname though.
It was on the. It was on time. The second series, as they swept the Nuggets, I'm watching them as a team, and I'm like, yo, they might. I think they're for real. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know. So that's probably the most surprising, but not really many surprises in my mind.
Yeah, so two things really surprised me so far. One, Miami Heat getting just mauled. I was not ready. I really wasn't. Not for them to get mauled the way they did. I thought Milwaukee would come out and be, do their thing, but to maul them,
right?
Last year we were talking about Uncle Jimmy, and he got his brown paper bag with him, and he could be out there in low top Converse canvas and still schooling. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any of that fire and fight. They just got destroyed. And I think the second thing that got me was I didn't realize how mentally weak Denver was. I just didn't see any fight in Denver at all. I mean, you got the MVP. And it seemed like because Murray wasn't there to run point and be your second guy, like nobody had to.
He tried.
Well, I think Mate was he tried to do his thing, and actually I loved it. I loved this game in college, so I was fine with his efforts. But you just didn't see anything else from anyone else consistently that really made you feel like, okay, this team is there. They're gonna give you a little bit of something. That surprised me. Mm-hmm. Other than that, everything else has kind of gone according to plan. Mm-hmm. Portland competed, but you kind of felt like they didn't have enough. Mm-hmm. So that's there. Now that we're in the thick of things, right? So we know that Phoenix is going to play for a conference championship. It seems like the Clippers are going to make a series out of this thing with Utah. Mm-hmm. They've made it that way. They've evened it up. Mm-hmm. Philly is in a dogfight with Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And Milwaukee, things have changed for them with the Nets.
Yeah.
How do you see this thing playing out from this point forward?
I still see Philly coming out of the East. Okay. If Embiid can get over that knee. I just think, put it like this: if Philly can get past Atlanta, they'll come out of the East.
I was going to say that because Atlanta doesn't look scared at all.
They're not. They're not blinking, and I don't think. I just don't see. I think the Bucks are going to get past Brooklyn. I think there's just too much going on in Brooklyn right now, and I don't think KD can do it by himself. So, unless Kyrie makes an immaculate recovery. And Harden as well. I don't think they. I think the Bucks will win that one. And I think Philly's got too much for Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee, their role players or their other, starters, Drew and Chris Middleton. they've been kind of up and down. You know what I mean? So I don't know how consistent they'll be. And I think Philly has been playing pretty consistently. They're dealing with a little bit of injury bug right now, but for the most part, they've been they've been probably one of the most consistent teams throughout the later half of the season into the playoffs. So
they have been, but something I noticed with Philly that kind of and it puzzles me. Mm-hmm. I like Ben Simmons, a lot of his game. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I am equally annoyed with other parts of his game.
The lack thereof? Is that what you're referring to?
I don't think it's I really don't think it's that it's not there. I just don't know what that is. It's kind of like,
and I'm referring to
something's.
I'm referring to the lack of scoring.
The jumper, right?
Yeah, the lack of scoring.
That's the part. But the ability's there.
Right.
That's the part I'm saying. Like, it's not that it's not. He doesn't have the ability. It's that the switch doesn't click on and like, okay, I need to take over right now. Like right now, last night you could tell Embiid's knee. I mean, there's just a lot on him, right? You have a torn meniscus, bro.
Right.
So I'm not going to burden him. I'm a facilitator. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't want to put the ball in the bucket, I'm going to control where things go. That's what your facilitator does. So I'm going to get it to Tobias in his spots. I'm going to get it to Seth Curry in his spots. I'm going to get the other guys involved and utilize them to make up for what Embiid normally gives us. So we don't have to put that burden on the big. But that just, I don't see that in him. Mm-hmm. And it puzzles me because other times you'll see it and you're like, well, where's that been for the last 15 games? Because he doesn't just disappear for a game and then, he resurfaces. Like he'll be gone for multiple games and then resurfaces.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's initially I want to say maybe it's pressure. I don't know, but at this point, do you feel pressure?
Right,
to shoot a jump shot,
right?
or like you said, just
right.
just facilitate take the game another way. If Embiid's struggling, I mean, he couldn't hit layups yesterday. He was just off. Yeah. He was not on his game at all. And I'm sure it was because he was dealing with the pain. But yeah, I agree. I mean, there's some other weapons on that team that he could utilize. So I'm not sure.
It makes me feel like it will be hard for them if they make it past Brooklyn to get past Milwaukee, and then I think any of them getting past Phoenix right now after what I saw,
no,
I don't see it. I really think, and honestly, man, and this is the only year I can see myself rooting for this, unless he was wearing the blue and gold of the Golden State Warriors. But this makes me really want to see Chris Paul get it done. And it's not just Chris Paul. When I look at that team, I mean, I look at Monty Williams, their coach, and I look at what they've got in that hole with Devin Booker, the kid, Cameron Bridges, Mikal, Cameron and Mikal Bridges, you're drafted by Philly, which is home, and then you're traded before the draft is over, to go out here and get better, perform well. I just like their team. I really do. Of the teams that are there, there's not a player on that team that I'm like, I don't really want to see him get a ring. I like how they're playing together. Like their ball. Yeah. I dig it, man. I really do.
Not to mention DeAndre Ayton is playing like a grown man right now.
Never saw that coming. Never saw that coming.
Me neither. So, it's interesting. We talked about, or you mentioned how the Heat kind of was one of the surprises to you for them to get ran through like they did. And I feel like last year they caught lightning in a bottle. It was one of those situations. They embraced the bubble. Hey, we're here. It's us. And they just caught lightning in a bottle. Not to say they don't have real talent on their team, but you know what I mean? And I feel like it almost seems like although the Suns have had a pretty good year all year, they've been playing pretty decent ball all year, but I feel like they're peaking at the right time. Chris Paul, there's no injuries to speak of. I mean, which is unheard of for him at this time of year. But it's like everything is working. It's like it's time. You know what I mean? So
yeah, well, they did well in the bubble, but here it goes back to, and you often cite Los' statement, man. Look at what Miami did in the bubble. Mm-hmm. Tyler Hero becomes, he's a superstar.
He's a hero.
I didn't see none of that.
Right.
Duncan Robinson, wow, he's a star.
Right.
Didn't see that. Goran Dragic, man, wow, this is the guy that makes the engine go. Didn't see it.
Right.
It seemed like a bunch of lost players struggling. Mm-hmm. And I want to give Milwaukee credit. Milwaukee can play really good defense when they want to. And, if Giannis is coming downhill, I don't care who you are, that's a problem. But it just didn't seem like they had any fight. Whereas to your point, Phoenix has got to fight for whoever. Like it's like, if you want it, come over here and get it. We got it for you. Whatever it is, we serving it hot at all times, 24/7. So
right.
I'm excited about that. So your call for the NBA Finals this year, as it stands right now, would be Philly versus Phoenix.
Phoenix, definitely. Philly, just because of Embiid's injury, I'm gonna say Philly. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Philly. That's what I said in the beginning. So Philly and Phoenix.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. My call is going to be for it all, because we're forgetting. I don't think Utah is going to get past the Clippers because I don't think Spider Mitchell's ankle's right, and I think without Spider, I don't see that happening.
Right.
So I'm going to call the Clippers play the Suns for conference championship. The Suns beat the Clippers in 7. And the Suns face, man, I'm actually going to go left of center, man. I'm going to go the Suns face the Bucks. And I didn't think I'd make that call, but the Suns face the Bucks for all the marbles, and the Suns take the chip.
Okay. How many games for the final?
The Suns take the Bucks in 5.
5. Yeah, gentleman's sweep. I can see that.
I think Milwaukee gets a courtesy win at home, and that's it.
If they're lucky. Phoenix has too much firepower. They might sweep the Bucks, man, if they play the Bucks.
Definitely. I'm going to ask you one last question before we segue to the next topic. Last year we had the bubble. Mm-hmm. This year we have fans in the stadium. Mm-hmm. In LA, they had fans and cardboard cutouts. Mm-hmm. Do you notice the difference and feel the difference in a way that's meaningful? Or do you still look back at last year's finals with some fondness and nostalgic joy?
With no fans?
Yeah.
I'll say this. At the time when they said they were going to play with no fans, I'm like, this is going to probably be boring. But the way they set it up, I liked it. It was cool. It was kind of like back to the essence, back to the basics. Mm-hmm. But now seeing fans in the stands, it feels good to see the fans back, man. I got to be honest. It feels good to see, to see the momentum swings and all of that. You know what I mean? So I'm glad it's coming back. Definitely.
I am with you. However, I do look back. I think it's the same thing. I think because last year the question was, were we going to have anything?
Right.
And to have it, I think it meant something more. What I'm glad to see is I don't look back at it like, oh, God, thank God the fans are back.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think I still have an appreciation. They did such an amazing job last year with the bubble that I still have an appreciation for it.
Sure.
And it doesn't detract from the thread of every year NBA playoffs, NBA finals. It's just, it was what it was. It was a special moment, did what it did, and now we're back to normal. And even as we're getting back to normal, to go from arena to arena, I was watching, I think it was the Utah Clippers game, mm-hmm. and to hear the fans and compare the difference. I think the joy of hearing fans full-throated enthusiasm, support for their team, hear that again, and hear it loud and realize, yeah, even with the recording, that wasn't close to what real arena cheering sounds like.
Absolutely.
It's got, I tell you what it does. It has me excited for football season. That's what it has me. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
Definitely.
With that, we're going to take a quick segue. We want to partner to recognize our partner, DAPTIME. You know, all the running, sweating, jumping, getting funky. Make time to wash up after it's all over. And if you're going to do so with DAPTIME. Samira Jacobs, our young teenage entrepreneur, has been a fan and partner of the show, and she continues to wow us and the world with her products. All herbal, all natural and organic. No synthetic oils or chemicals added to this, and they're affordably priced. So when you get time, visit their website, www.theoutseen.com. 2R1. A big game in the main event today. Shifting gears, keeping it close to hoop, but shifting gears a little bit. I was watching a little bit of WNBA highlights, and I was like, man, this is really good ball. We've talked about this before. I've shared this before. I think the women's game has some fundamental stuff that's exciting. And so I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper on that topic with you. And I wanted to understand, first of all, what do you think the average fan knows about the WNBA?
The average fan?
Yeah.
Probably knows
that it's basketball.
That it's basketball. 4 quarters, round ball.
And women.
And women are playing, yes. Yes.
Do you think the average fan has any idea how long the season is?
Probably not.
When the playoffs start?
Probably not.
Who the stars are?
Surely not.
I think this is a travesty.
Yes, and
you don't.
And there's a reason, though. I'm not saying.
It's like asking you, so do you want dessert?
Right. Yeah.
I just had a 24-ounce ribeye. Maybe.
There's a little room left, you know. You know what's unfortunate is I really feel like it doesn't fall on the quality of the game.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't fall on the players because they marketed well, and I don't know. I don't know who you put that part on. I don't know if it's just the marketing team or lack of funds or what, but it just doesn't seem to be marketed well. And that's why I think people don't. You have to go find it, like, you know what I mean. It's not in your face, really.
Well, I thought the same thing. That was one of my initial thoughts. Like, it's not in your face. Like, when you're gonna catch it. I think timing of some of the games is not great because either you're dealing with overlap of other things you might be tuning into. Or it's like slated for a time of day at a time you've already filled that void with something else, right? So it's, Sunday 9, there's a hoop game on already at 12:30. Their game starts at 11:30. You might be structuring your day to be ready for 12:30. Now, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or the promo's not there. They're marquee players, and they have some really great marquee players, but you don't see them marketed in a way that compels you to want to watch. And there's reasons to, right? When you look at the stats stand up against some of the marquee NBA players, some of the guys that are on the billboards, that are on the commercials, but you're not seeing these women integrated well. I've seen some commercials where they're trying to throw them in with Gatorade, and they're trying to throw them in with Powerade, and they're trying to throw them in with this sports, science, whatever. But in terms of getting their story told in a way that pulls you in, I agree with you. I don't think it's marketed in a way to pull the fan in to make them want to watch. If I were to ask you, why do you think it would be important for fans to watch? What would you say?
Well, I think because if you're a true basketball fan, probably some of the purest basketball is being played in the WNBA. I'm just talking from a purist standpoint. You know what I mean? Fundamental, dribbling, shooting, passing. That's happening in the WNBA. I also think it's important to, if we're talking about it, if we're going to talk about equality, the only way to push equality is to participate. And I think that, until And if people decide, hey, this is good, we're going to watch this, it'll take on its own life form at that point. I mean, there was a time when the NBA wasn't what it is now, right?
Right.
But
right.
it needed to grow. It needed to something had to pull people in, and then people said, hey, this is our thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important. I think it's important for women to have that outlet at the next level. And in order to keep that, it has to grow. And if it's not growing and making money, it's not gonna stay, you know?
I think you're right on the equality quotient. I think it's, I heard somebody say recently, equality is not something you can guarantee. You can't guarantee, every basketball player is going to get the same player. Every professional athlete is going to get the same pay. That would be equality.
Right.
But equity is what you should be able to guarantee, which means everybody has the same opportunity to earn, the same opportunity to shine, same opportunity for success through this medium. And I think that quotient should be available. I don't think it's being realized when you're saying that your top NBA female player might make, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000 for a season.
Mm-hmm.
Your top NBA players, making 60, 50, 60 for the season?
Easy.
And million.
Yeah.
Million, like $100,000 a game.
Right.
That's not, to me, equity. And I think that the reason it's important for fans to tune in is if fans tune into the game, it will compel the advertising dollars that will afford true equity for women who've chosen that avenue.
Right.
Your professional male basketball player on average is not running out after the NBA season over to Europe to play for a European team or to the Middle East to play for a Middle Eastern team. They're taking vacations.
Right.
They're getting their bodies right. They're gearing up for the next year so they can compete for their jobs again. Your average female is leaving the WNBA season and having to go play somewhere else to make real money to be ready to come back here and advance the cause. I mean, most of the women playing in the NBA right now are doing so to advance the cause for women behind them to earn. Right. You know what I mean? The Cynthia Coopers and others who have played already, they just laid Cheryl Miller, they laid the groundwork for women who are playing today. Rebecca Lobos and all these women who are now, either coaching or they're on TV, making more in their media career than they did while they were playing the game.
Right.
So I think it's important. One reason it's important is because fans will help the cause. The second reason I think it's important is because, to your point, not only are they playing some great ball, but there's some physical specimens over there that are phenomenal. 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 230, chiseled, balling. Balling.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, to see that and to see the possibility, I think it will help. You think about fathers who have daughters who always wanted sons. Right. Or parents who have daughters who are, they're athletic, but how do I, what do I tell her to do? How do I help her as an athlete when I was expecting to maybe be athletic with my son?
Right.
But how do my daughter's an athlete. My daughter thinks athletic thoughts.
Or I'm trying to get her into ballet, but she keeps throwing the ballet shoes back at me and asking me for the basketball. I mean, maybe the daughter maybe that inherently is just a gift, something she's gifted with, and she wants to figure out a way to express that. So it's good for them to have that. Okay, well, you can shoot for this.
Right.
You don't just shoot for getting picked first on the playground. You can shoot for this. So yeah, I agree with you. It's very important to have that option open for women.
You and I talked earlier this week. We were talking about the Kings series, and we were talking about our relationship to those boxers, that era, and that relationship with where we got that information, sitting around, getting that with pop, like that whole vibe, right? I'm seeing a father watch a WNBA game with his daughter, or an uncle watch a WNBA game with his niece, and like, which player you like, why you like that player, like really starting to take those conversations that have been reserved as this is the men's room, right? We're in here, men, right? No, this is now like really broaden that conversation, because the world is different, right? It's like participate in the evolution of our society from a vantage point that's very familiar to us,
right?
Because we do watch the game. We love the game.
Yeah.
And it's just women playing it. And trust me, there are some exciting moments in those women's games.
You know what it is? There has to be something to make you take ownership. And what I mean by that is there has to be a narrative that you want to follow, right? So take boxing, for example. Of course, huge boxing fan. I know you are as well. But I didn't always watch the women boxing, right?
Right.
But then there was certain stories that would pop up, and I'd be like, man, I want to watch that. Right. Layla Ali was one of them.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali's daughter. I got to follow her and see what she does. Ann Wolfe was one, just because she was very colorful,
right.
To say the least.
A great way to put it.
But and then of course Clarissa Shields. I have friends from Flint, so I know where she comes from. I know what she's been through, and to be able to get behind the scenes in her story, see what she came out of, see what she went through, and how she persevered through it. Man, how can you not root for somebody like that? And I think that's what a marketing team, and I don't know if you put it on the marketing team or whomever with the WNBA, if they, and maybe they do this, but if they could find a way to get more stories out there to where people could, buy into the behind the scenes story, what this team went through, it's all about a story, man. It's really all about a story. And I think if they can figure out a way to paint a picture, maybe with the COVID situation, what did some of these teams go through? And then once you buy into the story, then it's like, oh man, I gotta follow it. You know what I mean? Because I think about it, normally I'm not looking to see what's going on in women's boxing today. Let me see who I can. Right. I don't do that. But if Clarissa Shields is fighting, I'm there.
Well, think about it. I mean, right now, listen, when Chris Paul was with the Hornets early in his career, I liked Chris Paul. I liked him and David West. I thought, man, here's one of the smaller guards in a game that is starting to show you 6'6", 6'5", 6'7" point guards. But man, his handles are great. His leadership is great. Man, I like this guy. When he goes to the Clippers, and I got to face him in the playoffs when my Dubs got back to the playoffs. Didn't like Chris Paul. I love him as a person, Cliff and Uncle Cliff and all that on the state for us, all nice. Right. But, I don't want to see the Clippers, right? We want to run through them. So when he leaves, and now he's in, then he leaves, he goes to Houston. So, Houston, same way. Now he's in Phoenix, but he's in Phoenix with Monty, who was his coach when he was with New Orleans. And Monty, as you know, Monty lost his wife tragically and unexpectedly. He's gone through that. He's recovered, probably still healing. I mean, who knows what that's about? But he and Chris also butt heads early in Chris's career, because Monty wanted to coach a certain way and Chris wanted to play a certain way. So now these more mature individuals come back together, and they've got a young team of up and coming star talent and professionals, and the next generation represent the next generation, and they have a real shot. That's a story you want to follow. Like, even if you're not a Phoenix fan, it's like, hey, how's this going to play out? Right. And so to your point, I think it's those stories that need to be told better. And if they're told better, maybe it translates to more fans. And I also think knowing, like, WNBA, you talk about it early in the playoffs, 40 games and 40 nights. Right. That's easy to remember and want to tune into. What is the WNBA giving you that can help pull fans in? I would love to see that. Yeah. But I think to help get it there, more fans tuning in, more fans participating online, follow some WNBA stars that are out there. Liz Cambridge, she's like a 6'8" center who caught everybody's attention because one of the coaches made a comment about her size, right? And they had this back and forth for a couple of days. She got suspended. He got fined, but they squashed their beef. But man, got me tuning in to see, oh man, she's got skills and her team balls. I think she plays for Las Vegas, man, and is doing her thing. Elena Deladon came back this year, who was an MVP, but man, she won MVPs in Europe and overseas and is killing the game. And she is considered the best player in the WNBA game, but she was coming back from an Achilles injury and didn't play last year because of the shortened season. Brianna Stewart, another player with great talent. So these stories, getting those stories out, getting fans knowing, hey, these are interesting athletes with great narratives, great stories. Let's tell them often. Let's tell the fans when they can tune in and learn more. And let's start reeling them in. See what the fans bite on. See and get our fans growing our base. But follow those players on Twitter. Follow them on Instagram. Get to know their stories so the league can start getting information about us. That's why the fans have to tune in, because it won't get bigger and it won't get better if we don't give our voice to it, right?
Absolutely. Speaking of giving your voice, you mentioned Las Vegas. You do know who their head coach is, don't you?
The Las Vegas coach?
Yeah.
Who?
That is the one and only Bill Laimbeer from the Bad Boys, Detroit Pistons.
Oh yeah. Now he used to be somewhere else, right? Was he in Minnesota?
I'm not. I think he was New York.
Detroit.
New York.
Yeah. The Liberty. Okay.
New York Liberty. Yep.
Well, then we know Bill knows what to do. So Bill is all about that action.
Lending his voice, man. Lending his voice.
Big Dame, I think this is a great time to segue to one of my favorite segments of Game Time, the championship rounds, where you drop those nuggets of wisdom that we can live by.
Man. Championship rounds, as we always do at Game Time. This is where we just, the championship rounds, that's where winners are made and losers lose. It's your choice. Got to make a decision, man. It's really simple. That's why they're called championship rounds. If you're going to win it, you got to win it there. So this one right here, man, is real simple, real short, real simple, but profound. I ran across this, just a quote. I don't know who said it. It's anonymous, but I loved it. And it basically just says that your life is your story. Write well and edit often. So, it's your world. It's your world. I don't care what your background is. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what your circumstances were. Always remember to write well, because your actions, that's how you write. That's your penmanship right there. Your actions, your decisions, what you do it well. Because if you don't do it well, it's on you. You can't blame anybody else. At the end of the day, it's your life. It's your story for you to write. So write well and be ready to edit often. Always be ready to pivot. Always be ready to. It's nothing wrong with making an edit. Everybody does it. So, as you move through, just remember that. None of us are stuck where we are. None of us are stuck where we started. We all have a pen and we all have some paper, and it's up to us to write well and always edit often. So that's it, man. Wow. Take that with you.
Great nugget, Big Dame, and a good segue to a great way to close out the show. We started out the show. Big Dame gave a special shout out and encouraged you guys to follow our longtime partner, Harrell Eyewear, who made that pivot to never lose your identity. They're really building a lot of great stuff around that. NLYI is really doing amazing things and connecting you, the fan, with those that you really want to follow. So it is part of the embedded technology that goes in his special glasses to make sure you never lose your glasses, thus never lose your identity. But now he's made a pivot to apparel with NLYI. So a great living example of how you need to not only write well, but sometimes you need to edit often. And that will help to ensure the story that you want to hear at the end. Big Dame, as always, I appreciate the conversation, your nuggets of wisdom, insight, always powerful. And Pete Nice, thank you for always scratching on the break, dropping the needle on the one. But to you, our listeners, we want to tell you how much we appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Game Time. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can catch everything we do hot off the press, get it fresh on your plate when you need it. Don't be late. Until we see you again, if you're not doing so, follow us on all social media channels. We're on Instagram at DAPTIME21. We're on Twitter at DAP_time. We're on Facebook at DAPTIME. But whatever you do, share it with 5, 10 others. Bring them along. Build a community. We'll be here again real soon. Until we see you next time, we'll leave you as I always do. When you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, there is your competition. We out.
Peace.